Brian, how is your day going so far, aside from answering the same questions over and over and over again from wrestling media?
Well, you were the first one, so that hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure that's on my agenda.
No repeat questions possible. Okay, well, good day for you so far, aside from these weird questions.
Yeah, I just got back from a week vacation with my family at Disney World, so just adjusting back into regular life here in New York.
Sure. Well, speaking of New York, big arena show coming up at UBS Arena. I know you've been there as an Islanders fan, but first time wrestling there, correct?
Yes, I'm super excited about Slammiversary coming to UBS. To be honest, you know, pat on my own back here. I've accomplished a lot in my career, and I don't have a lot of bucket list things left. Um, but UBS was one of them, and I was wondering, man, like how the hell am I ever gonna knock this one off the list? And lo and behold, TNA Slammiversary is on its way, and it's literally like a dream come true for me.
With that bucket list, I know you've been to City Field many a time. I did see the Prince of Queens wrestle at City Field. So, are there a lot of venues left on that bucket list?
There's not, and UBS was it for me, man. I got to do something at Hammerstein, of course, multiple times in the ECW arena. Won the tag team titles at Nassau Coliseum. Been to the MSG more times than I can remember. So UBS was it, and I'd actually brought my kids to Disney on Ice there. I had visited some friends at AEW there and seen it backstage. I obviously have gone to Islander games there, and I was thinking, man, how am I ever gonna accomplish this? So I feel like maybe I willed it all into existence with TNA coming to UBS.
But you never got the Freeport Rec Center, correct?
No, and man, I've tried to run Creator Pro shows there, and we were told absolutely not. So I've told Tommy and Bully Ray that story. They got a kick out of it. I said, "What did you guys do?"
But of course, UBS is not the only big show because there's really big shows coming up in El Paso, Kansas City, LA. But at the same time, I think we're so far out that you don't know who you're battling on any of these cards. Am I
Oh yeah,
correct?
absolutely not. That TNA has rolled out a pretty big agenda for 2025, and it's very exciting. Things are getting bigger and better and more exciting, and it's really special to be a part of it all.
So you had a lot of years where it was like 2 to 300 days on the road. And now it seems to be maybe like 40, 50 days a year on the road. What's the sweet spot for you?
Well, I kind of did it perfectly, I would say, because back then, I was in my early to mid 20s and single and could care less about travel and what I was doing and going and where I was going. And now, I'm happily married. I have two amazing little kids, and I do appreciate the time I'm here with them. It's a lot more than most, professional wrestlers get at home.
So Long Island seems to be the hub for professional wrestling, but the dots are very disconnected. In other words, the people in Wantagh don't really connect much with the people in Patchogue. They're kind of all over the place. But what was it that brought you to Long Island as a full-time resident?
I was born and raised in Glen Cove, so I've only really ever known that. And through my wrestling career, I've lived in several other places, lovely places, but I always come back to Long Island because it's home for me, and I'm pretty positive it will be for till the day I die.
So you were never a Florida person.
No, and I was in FCW for a year. I lived in Tampa for a year. I lived in Atlanta for a year in the developmental system. I lived in Louisville for almost a year. Um, but like I said, I just always want to be back home. I'm very close to my parents, my family, my wife's family. It's just it's where my home is.
And one of the reasons I'm assuming this is your home is because Creative Pro is here. Who's the next crop of talent that we should be looking for?
Well, I think WWID kind of sniffed a few of them out there. Bryce Donovan and Aaron Rourke have already signed WWID contracts as of last month, so that was very exciting for the school. And I think the next one that everyone is going to be pretty fascinated with is Gabby Forza. So she's on her way. She's the first ever Creative Pro Women's Champion, and she's really blowing up the indie scene right now.
So to kind of project and over compliment you right here, 4.5 years ago when you came back to the ranks of Impact, TNA, and all that, I'm betting it didn't seem like this was where you were going to wind up, not just as the TNA Impact person, but also with Major Figure and Creative Pro. In other words, everything kind of worked out. When did you realize that this was going to be the long-term career path?
I mean, I'm always a kind of everything happens for a reason type of guy. So I will not lie to you. With when we all got fired in the the heart of the pandemic, I was very uncertain as to what the heck was going on, as we all were, like in all facets of our life, not just pro wrestling. But there's always I always look for that silver lining, and luckily my wrestling dad Tommy Dreamer called me pretty quickly and said, "I think you'd have fun here. It's be a good fit." And I said, "Let's go." And it was honestly it was such a blessing in disguise, man. Like I've had the time of my life being a part of the TNA roster, so um, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Does Tommy Dreamer know that you call him your wrestling dad?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Do you have then wrestling siblings as a result?
Well, I mean, wouldn't Matt Cardona be one by default? You know, that's probably about it.
Well, I
And
didn't
then
know.
also I kind of count Trent Beretta a little bit because we all started together when we were just kids.
So it sounds like, in a good way, you have the same friends now that you did 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way the wrestling business works. There's definitely people that I don't talk to at a regular basis, but if I saw them right now, we'd be, yucking it up and telling jokes, and it wouldn't be like any time it passed at all. And that's a beautiful thing, I think, about the wrestling business.
Well, that's kind of the opposite of what we fans usually hear, where a certain unnamed announcer, backstage person once said, if you make it out of the wrestling business with more than three friends, you're very lucky. And that doesn't seem like the Brian Myers path.
No, and I don't think that. I think like the brotherhood and the camaraderie of pro wrestling is probably one of my favorite parts of it, to be honest with you. And I think if you are involved in wrestling and you don't take advantage of that or embrace the beauty of that, I think you've done yourself a real disservice. Like for
Wow.
sure.
And that is knowledge imparted in you by your wrestling dad?
No, I mean, yes and no. I just think it's just things that I've learned along the way. Been doing this 21 years now, so there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and you learn from those mistakes. And in someone saying that, whatever veteran said that, I feel like they didn't really. And it was also maybe a little bit of a different business back then, right? A little more ruthless and cutthroat and carny, as we say.
Sure. So, recapping what we've talked about so far, TNA, you're still doing fantastic with the system. You have the arena shows, etc. Major Wrestling Figure podcast just keeps growing and growing. Creative Pro keeps growing and growing. But one thing that we haven't heard much about is you have one acting credit beyond all that. The movie Romance in the Digital Age, which was
Yep.
made by a Long Islander out here. Was
Yep.
acting ever part of the long-term plan for you?
No, the first time I got fired, it was just kind of like, all right, I got to pay the bills. I'm open to anything. What I really wanted to do because I thought I'd be a natural at it is stunt work because it's very adjacent to the pro wrestling business. And I still do think I'd be an excellent stuntman. Um, so that was kind of how I was trying to really dip my toe. But then I could just at the time I lived in Queens. It was a short train ride to the city, and I would just go on all kinds of auditions and stuff. And I did a couple handful of random things, but that's the only movie I got to do, which is a Christmas movie, and it is Christmas time. So if you are looking for something, to pass the time and hang out at night, not a bad choice.
That movie was made by a person who's also of that punk rock, emo, and wrestling crossover world. No one knows what music you listen to except maybe your old ring name was inspired by a Foo Fighters drummer. But are you secretly part of that punk rock world?
No, for sure. In college, my favorite bands were like Taking Back Sunday and Brand New, and I was very much into that. I say my overall though favorite artist of all time is Tom Petty, and I hate to admit this, but a lot of that like Dashboard, Confessional, and Taking Back Sunday and Brand New, it doesn't hold up to me anymore because I've just matured as a person, so I can't like even like really relate to it anymore, which is sad because I really did enjoy it at the time. But yeah, just evolving, which is a good thing.
Were you at any of those early Taking Back Sunday Brand New shows? I mean, I was because a lot of it was in Rockville Center and Belmore and Merrick and all that.
Right. I was not, but I've heard all they were too popular by the time I discover them, but obviously I've heard the lore of all that stuff. Yeah.
For sure. Well, two quick questions and then I let you go. And the first one
Cool.
is selfishly, I'm dialing in from Long Beach. A lot of wrestlers have lived in Long Beach. For a while, we had that autograph wrestling store weird thing in Long Beach.
Yep.
Another company used to do house shows at the high school here, etc. Do you have any ties to Long Beach? Did you spend much time here?
I mean, every summer, me and my high school friends would always find our way there, 3 to 5 times, to enjoy the nightlife and the scene. Matt Cardona lived there for years, so I was always going there to see him and hang out with him. John from Ringside Collectibles, the owner, he lives in Long Beach.
Oh,
Little known fact, he probably didn't want me to tell anyone that. And brand new WWE ID signee, Bryce Donovan, is a Long Beach, I think, native, like born and raised. So there's definitely some wrestling ties there. Yeah, I was shocked that the Wrestling Universe store was there, and I was not shocked that it did not last there because it's just such a deep location to get to.
there was a rumor that Stryker was around here. Is that true?
He might have had a place for like a summer or two. But not, yeah, not a regular.
Got it. And the last question I have for you comes back to an original thing you were talking about your bucket list and multi-time tag team champion. You've held some singles titles, but is there anything venues aside still in wrestling you hope one day will happen for you?
Man, I'm enjoying being part of the system so much that I have all my eggs in that basket. We all are enjoying it. We're all real life, really great friends, best friends. We even went on a vacation this summer together with all our wives and stuff, and we're having a lot of fun. And I think Eddie and I are one of the best teams in all of wrestling, and we're both, I think, mutually enjoying this experience so much that's all we really have our mindset on at this point. So if I had to think of I've been so fortunate, I've wrestled everybody too. A dream opponent for me at this point was, I would love for Steve Carino to come out of retirement, have one with him. And then I will say that a little bit of jealousy creeped in last spring when I saw Matt wrestle Adam Copeland. That one got to me. I said, well, I'm an edgehead too. I should probably do something similar to this. So, and he even tweeted about it to keep, really sink in the jealousy. So that's probably my two things.
Well, fortunately, those following your social media did see that spear that you did. And then the shared edge emoticon or meme. What do you call that thing when the moving photo that you share?
Sure, a GIF? Is that a GIF?
Yeah, the shared GIF. So
Yeah.
glad to see you're at it. Looking forward to what's to come, and I'm looking forward to that huge babyface pop when you are at UBS Arena and they
Yeah,
can't boo you.
I'm so used to all these arenas all over the country chanting FUCK the system. So it might be a little bit of a mixed reaction in UBS, but we'll see.
Paltrow.